Okay, well, it's been a while. Um, yeah, so I haven't made a video in I think it's just about a year. Um, and so first of all, if you're following this channel since then, thank you for sticking around. And I guess maybe a brief bit of notice on that. Uh, I generally enjoy playing Magic for competitive paper events, so I just haven't played a lot this last year. And then we have the mess that was everything pre-ban. But some bans just happened, and as you are probably aware if you're watching this, Simian Spirit Guide took a hit. May he rest in peace. So I think that makes Inverter just probably the best thing that we could be doing going forward. That's not to say there's not a lot of interesting ideas, but really I'm just interested in refining my inverter shell a little bit, and seeing if that's where to go with this whole thing. So first, a couple quick notes on the deck list. I trimmed some City of Brass, and that's because we're not running Veil of Summer. Trimmed some City of Brass, that's because we're not running Veil of Summer. Depending on the amount of discard we could be facing, I don't like how Veil is just kind of bad on the draw. It's only like good on the play against discard if you have a random land and then you can hold it up. I don't like how. I mean, it's good against like counter magic decks, but I found myself frequently like one of the problems I was having against counter magic decks is that I was overboarding, like bringing in like some Thoughtseize, some Veil. At times I've had other technology in here such as Defense Grid and whatnot. So yeah, so we trimmed down on those. And then I thought about like what this deck does, right? And what this deck does is it makes 4 mana on turn 3 to play an Inverter or a Jace, or to kill with Grace Spoils Oracle. So if it makes 4 mana on turn 3, that makes Gifts Ungiven interesting. Because if you can Gifts on turn 3, Unburial on turn 4, there are certain decks where, some big Gifts target is just lights out. I ran a league with this. I'm actually going to talk about this from replays because I was just kind of running a league for myself, and then I'm like, actually, wait. After I was done, it occurred to me that maybe I should make a recording or make a video on it just to kind of help people get off the ground with these inverter lists. So then I was like, okay, well, maybe I should just talk about some of the matches. So the only difference is I forgot about Blazing Archon as a card when I was just quickly throwing together the gift stuff, and I ran a Jin-Gitaxias instead. Jin-Gitaxias is bad. It's an old attempt at technology against like Jund and whatever. It's not good though. Blazing Archon's just definitely better. Blazing Archon can potentially be lights out against some stuff. Elishnorn can be lights out against some stuff. Iona can be lights out against some stuff. And then Gristlebrand is maybe not lights out against anything, but it's sort of the best option sometimes, if that makes sense. There definitely could be other big fatties worth considering, but that's just what I have at the moment. Some Thoughtseize, Paths, Engineered Explosives, that's all pretty standard. And then the main deck, I think 1 to 2 Wishclaw is the right place to be. So I added in some of the pathways to adjust the land ratio with City of Brass. I didn't really feel any problem with the land base at all. I don't recall getting color screwed, although maybe. And then full 4 of the blue of each of the blue combo pieces. I think that's really important just to ensure that we hit it with a shell dock. And honestly, the redundancy is what makes this deck like powerful, right? So I mean, Thassa's Oracle. If you have extras, you can play it as a dig piece. Jace, it can be the world's most expensive Thought Scourer if you need it to be. So Angel's Grace and Unlife naturally stalling for time. So there's a lot of interesting stuff like that in play. I could be talked into playing the Thoughtseizes main deck and the Pacts in the sideboard, or maybe not even playing the Pacts and instead playing some other type of anti counterspell package, but that's just what I'm thinking of for now. So I guess we won't jump into it, but we will jump back in time into it. So let me just bring this over here. As you can see, I'm truly an expert of screen transitions. I don't actually know how people do this like properly. I just have like 2 monitors and I'm kind of messing around. So this is game 1 of my first match. So we get a... Wait, that's play till next. So we play against a basic mountain. Yeah, let me see if I can like adjust the size or something on here, because this is looking a little weird. I might not be able to from the recording. Oh, it can go like that. I guess that's a little more even, maybe. Okay, so our hand here is pretty excellent. If we draw a land, we have a turn 3 kill with Oracle Spoils Grace. We would keep this against literally anything. The fact that I'm showing that it's basic mount doesn't matter yet. Goblin Guide. I'm actually kind of happy to see Goblin Guide here because I don't think we're likely to be dead before we get our turn 3, and Goblin Guide has the potential to draw us into land. And we immediately do. And we can play that on turn 1, so the fact that it's a tap land has no bearing here. So now all we need to do is hope that we live until our turn 3. Burn has no way to interact with any of what we're doing. That makes the best possible draws here, really. I mean, an extra Grace or something doesn't really matter, because we won't have the time to play it. We have to play the Talisman next turn. So what really that means is that our best possible draw is actually Pact of Negation. Because Pact is something interactive that we could use to slow them down that we can play on their turn 3. Doesn't matter what we take with Shelldock here. I've talked in my other video about how with Shelldock Isle, it's important to actually play a bit of a guessing game. So if the Shelldock Isle shows you like a Thassa's Oracle, don't just snap put the Oracle under the Shelldock, even though you're going to snap put the Oracle under the Shelldock. Tank on it a little bit, because then that gives your opponent information that maybe the thing under the Isle isn't an Oracle or a Jace or something that you would have immediately put there. So it's important to kind of mislead your opponent with that, because that can cause them to make poor judgment calls regarding what to play around. I discarded the Jace. I could have discarded a Talisman. Maybe there's some world where they play a Braid and I want the second Talisman, so that's why I discarded the Jace. The Jace literally will not matter here. They have Ramunap Ruins, which is notably a little weird. I won't like say spoilery things going through this, but a second Goblin Guide. So I mean, I just need to live 1 turn from 14, which I think we're pretty likely to do. Notably, I'm playing the Gemstone Mine here and not the City, because the Gemstone Mine's counters will not run out this game, so I would like to save the point of life. And notably, after I play this Talisman of Dominance, I don't play the Serum Visions for that exact same reason. There's no reason to play it. I mean, there's a very tiny chance I draw a Pact, but I think the fact like having 1 extra life point is much more likely to matter than potentially drawing a Pact. So they play a Legion Loyalist, so now we're thinking that they are some type of like 8 whack. So they hit us for a bunch. They Goblin Grenade us to 4, and actually if they have like land extra Goblin Grenade, we could have been dead here, but they didn't. So we draw the Pact. Actually, we would have drawn the Pact, but that doesn't make it the right play to play the Serum Visions. It was still the wrong play to play the Serum Visions. It doesn't matter what would have happened. It just matters what the percentages are that you know. So then we just killed them with Grace, Oracle, as well as the Vault. And I believe, hopefully I named Simian Spirit Guide. I think I did. Oh, our opponent conceded before we got to name it. Okay, so that was game 1. Let me just pull up game 2 here real quick. So we can close that out. Bring up game 2. I guess you can see the spoilers here, so maybe it's not that great. Okay. So this hand is pretty bad, I think. I'm pretty sure I mulligan this. Yeah. This hand is also not great. But I mean, it does have a serum and explosives. Do I mulligan this? I don't actually remember. It's not great. I could kind of be talked into either way. I think I might mull it. No, wait, do I? No, I don't. Yeah, that was maybe slightly questionable. And we have the serum, but we don't really have a lot else going for us. I think maybe I expected this engineered explosives to pull a lot of weight. Which against 8-whack is I think a pretty fair assumption. Them starting on a tap land is good. And us drawing a land is good. Shelldock finds nothing useful, so that's bad. There are various upsides to what other cards you put under Shelldock. Generally, Inverter or Spoils can clear a small library post-Inverter. Sometimes you might be able to put an interactive piece like a Thoughtseize or a Pact or whatever. Sometimes you might be able to put like a white card to somehow like upkeep fog off an empty library, off a Shelldock or something like that. Or potentially even an Unlife in order to grace Spoils, play an Unlife from that or something like that. So what does our opponent have? They have Burning Tree into Bushwhacker. Okay, well this is really bad for our engineered explosives because first of all, these are 2 different CMCs, and second of all, they are not 1-drops. I was hoping they would just play a pile of 1-drops and then we'd blow them up on turn 3. So this is kind of a decent draw. I mean, it lets us get our mana going. So we've got a Pentat Prism, and now I mean, we can play a land. We can maybe play Inverter and like block if we draw, a blue card. We have chances, and then this happens, and they play Devastating Summons, and then kick a Bushwhacker, and we are dead before we even get to our turn 3. So that's lovely. All right. So let's get out of here. Bring up game 3. So game 3, we're on the play. This hand is interesting. I think I tanked for a little bit on whether or not I do keep this. The thing is, with just 1 land, playing Unlife is good. Having the Serum is nice as well. I can play the Shelldock and then play the Serum on 2. If I have Unlife, maybe I can get to a point where I can like lights out them with gifts. Notably, I boarded in gifts a lot in these games just to like test it. Honestly, I don't think I ever resolved one. But that's usually because I drew other halves of my combo before I like was even in a spot to gifts. So like maybe having like too much combo is not a bad problem to have. Like if you're just drawing it so consistently that I was just killing them instead of gifting them. So all right, so they lead on a Ramanap Ruins, play a Foundry Street Denizen. That's fine. Here we're drawing another Shelldock, so we're definitely playing this Shelldock so that we can play this on life on turn 3. Notably, I played it before the Serum Visions because that way I don't mess with my Scry. I could have tried to scry a blue card to the top to hit with Shelldock, but the problem is I already have the Thassaurus Oracle in hand, so I don't actually need to do that at all. And I draw a another card here, so that's very good. That Spoils is absolutely perfect. That means next turn I can unlife, and then turn 4 we kill them with Spoils Oracle. Our opponent is, putting damage on us. We play the Steam Chrome Coast. We play an Unlife. Our opponent plays Legion Loyalist, and I don't think they're going to be able to do enough damage here. Yep, so we take 4. It doesn't really matter what they have here. Like, if they have some sort of removal spell for the Oracle, it won't matter because we'll have 0 cards in our library. They're playing mono red, so they're not removing the Phyrexian on life. If they have like a Goblin Grenade to bolt us after we go negative, I mean, that would only be 5 in fact. If they had like land and 2 Goblin Grenades, it does make this a lot more risky because they could potentially have killed us through this on life with just 10 damage out of their hand off 2 red mana. But they don't, which makes this pretty safe. If they had the 2 lands up, I would actually strongly consider just passing and then end step gifts. And then, Unburial Rites like Iona naming red or Elish Norn. Both of those would be pretty good. Probably Iona naming red. And we win. Great. So, that is match 1 against 8-Whack. And now we've got match 2. So match 2 here, we are up against, well, let's see, I won't spoil. This hand, it looks like it's like blue lands and black cards, but these are actually black lands. Also, we have Shelldock into turn 2 Pentad, into turn 3 Inverter, into kill them with whatever's under Shelldock. So this hand is actually quite good, even though it may not look like it at first. Notably, Inverter, this deck doesn't put very many cards in the graveyard, so Inverter is pretty reliably just flipping like 0, 1, 2 cards, something like that, which is nice. All right, so we're against Stomping Grounds. That could be a lot of different things. Shriekhorn, so we're against Dredge, and they miss on their first Shriekhorn mill, so that's fantastic. Pact is not good, but not the worst. We miss on Shelldock, which is a little bit of a problem, actually. It is worth noting that against Dredge, they can potentially mill themselves below Shelldock threshold, so we can just put combo pieces under Shelldock and then like kill them off of like 2 Shelldocks or something. So for example, here if I draw an Inverter, or not an Inverter, a Thassa's Oracle, play this Pentad Prism, potentially we get to the point, or no, sorry, if I draw another Shelldock, a Thassa's Oracle, potentially we get to the point where I can like grace off a Shelldock from their library, spoils, and then play our Thassa's Oracle off our Shelldock. Or even without that, potentially. So there's interesting lines there. So they milled again with Shriekhorn and missed a Dredger. So we're liking where this is going so far. They have a very slow hand. We'll play a Pathway and then play out this Pentad Prism. We just really need a blue card. They still have yet to find a Dredger, so their deck is hitting a bit of their fail rate. They Cathartic Reunion without a Dredger. So that's quite good for us. No, finally they have one, and then they discard a Loam, but I think it's going to be, I mean, we could still draw bad. We do need to hit on our draws, but their hand is very slow. We draw a Pact of Negation. Okay. So, here, it's interesting. mean, they do have a Conflagrate in the yard, but they only have 2 cards in hand. So what we can do, and I believe what we end up doing, is we put a spoils for an Oracle, and then we play Inverter, and then Inverter shuffles the spoils back, and then that's our draw for next turn, and then we Oracle. I think that is the play here. Unless I pass. Oh, I pass because there's no reason to do that, because I can just spoils on end step and then Inverter Oracle in the same turn. Dredge doesn't play main deck removal that can hit an Oracle at instant speed, so having 1 card in library versus 0 cards in library is irrelevant against them. And this is a little bit safer, because if they get me really low for some reason, then that gives me the chance to just like not play the spoils, or spoils for like a grace or like an unlife or something if I need to. Also, I have these 2 pacts, so even if they were a removal heavy deck, I think I would still be interested in playing this same line. Obviously, it depends on exactly what they, exactly the composition of their deck, but I can defend the Oracle with 2 pacts, so that's a pretty comfortable spot to be in. They don't do a whole lot that is very relevant. So on their end step, we spoils for Oracle, and then we kill them. Hooray. Yeah, and again, doesn't really matter. I have 2 packs to defend this thing. They concede before we even show the Oracle because we're just removing the mana. Okay. Game 2. This game is funny. I won't spoil. Whoops! I skipped. So I skipped the first mall, but it was a 1-lander with like 3 Thoughtseize and I think a spoils, and it was iffy. So Thoughtseize is quite good against Dredge actually, even though it may not seem like it, because often their explosiveness hinges on like having a Cathartic Reunion or something like that. So if you can strip that Cathartic Reunion, very often they will be slowed down considerably. So I think that makes Thoughtseize quite a bit better than Pact against Dredge. Additionally, you can use it to take like a Nature's Claim or some type of interactive piece that might blow up one of your artifacts or enchantments in a spot where you can't Pact. So here we bottom a land because I'm expecting to be able to Thoughtseize on turn 1, play this Jace on 3, and then hope I draw like an Inverter or Spoils Grace combo. Now, notably, I'm on the draw here, so I'm going to lead on Gemstone Mine and play this Thoughtseize, even though it might look like, well, I have 2 tap lands and I could play this Thoughtseize on 2. The difference between Thoughtseize on 1 and Thoughtseize on 2 is absolutely huge against Dredge, especially when I mentioned that we're specifically looking to hit that Cathartic Reunion. So we play the Gemstone Mine, we Thoughtseize them, we see a Cathartic Reunion and no other enablers. We take the Cathartic Reunion. They do nothing on 2, so now we can just play our stuff out like a turn behind. We hit an Oracle off of our Shelldock Isle, and we've picked up a Phyrexian Life, so this is looking promising. Our opponent cycles. Our opponent takes their draw step, and then our opponent concedes because they just have nothing going on because we got their Cathartic Reunion. So maybe illustrating a somewhat non-intuitive decision there. I mean, it looks like, well, we have 2 tap lands and we have a Talisman, so it's very like mana efficient and intuitive to play a tap land first and then play the Talisman on 2 and Thoughtseize. But it is definitely correct to lead on the Thoughtseize here. Especially when they didn't play like a Shriekhorn or some other enabler on turn 1. If they played a Shriekhorn, I think it's maybe a little bit closer, especially, yeah, because then you have to think about, well, will they have enough velocity from dredgers like that in order to potentially take advantage of the fact that we are kind of slowing ourselves down by a turn in order to play this Thoughtseize on 1. But when they play land pass, I think that's almost a sure sign of Cathartic Reunion. Okay. So, that's match 2. So we are 2 2-0 so far. Feeling pretty good. I mean, both against pretty good matchups, but still. This deck is, so we mull to 5. Sorry, I clicked through the mulls. The 7 and 6 were just completely unplayable. And here I had, the other 2 cards were an Inverter and a Serum Visions. So I do have the interesting choice of, I'm obviously keeping all the mana. Do I keep these and try to like draw a Thassa's Oracle or a Jace? Or do I keep the Inverter and Serum Visions, and then I have the Serum Visions to try and draw me into an Oracle or a Jace? But the thing is, if I keep the Inverter Serum Visions, Jace isn't really a hit because I'd also need to hit quite a bit of mana. So instead, I mean, it's really Serum Visions and Oracle, but I need to more specifically find Inverter versus here finding Inverter or Jace. So even though I don't have the cantrip, I think this is probably higher odds. I could hypergeometric that though, because I think it's not as lopsided as it first appears. It's close-ish, but I think this is right. So I think we play out our cards. Play a Talisman. They play a Thassa, or not a Thassa, a Thalia. So we get to do the cool trick of playing the Pentad with 3 counters. They are 100,000% holding up Spell Queller here. So I play a Serum. We see a Thassa's Oracle, so that's good. It's so obvious that they're holding up Queller, I'm not interested in risking this. I would like to play the Wish Claw, and now we're in a spot where we have 7 mana, and if we top deck a land, we can Wish Claw for Pact, and then we have 8 mana. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for the search, and then 8 to play Pact through Thalia. So we potentially might spell combo through Thalia here if we hit an untapped land. Then they play Land and Arbiter, which is not good for us, because that invalidates this Wishclaw plan. Again, 1000% they have Queller. So I think a little bit here. We draw a second Oracle, which is potentially cool, because that means that if we draw another mana, we could, we can like Grace Spoils, and then they save their Queller thinking that they'll get our Oracle, but then we just have 2 Oracles. So I think a little bit here, and I actually activate this Wishclaw Talisman. What was I doing? Oh, right. So I had a couple different things I was thinking here. One is that maybe if I send them the Wishclaw, it baits them into like paying down mana on the Land and Arbiter. 2, if I activate Wishclaw but pay mana here, then they can Ghost Quarter me out, and I'm not interested in having that happen, so I need to hold up 2 mana for these Ghost Quarters. So I figure if I send them Wishclaw, then they maybe use it and like choke their own mana or something, and I'm still in the spot of kind of hoping to just top deck a land. But we don't. And we continue not to. And we continue not to. And we continue not to. And we lose. So that was a bit of a strange game. Maybe you could have made a case that I should have spoils for a land there, but I don't really think so. We're on such low life total that that's very likely to kill us. And if we just draw an untapped land, we have a decent shot at beating a single Queller, although by the end of that, they might have had like 2 Quellers. Okay, this hand is kind of risky because I need to hit a second land, but then I have a lot of artifact mana and 2/3 of the combo, so I'm kind of in on this. We saw a Seachrome, so I mean it's tapped, so that's not ideal. It makes us play a turn behind, but it is a land, so we are going to keep that. We hit a Jace to put under it, which is nice. Just more blue combo pieces. Seems always good. So they play Athalia. We play Talisman. Next turn we'll start playing 3 CMC Pentads. Here I don't mind using any of these things as bait if they like want to quell or some of this. That's fine with me. Okay, so they play a Stoneforge. They're just developing their mana. They get us with Land and Ghost Quarter on our Shelldock. Fortunately, we have an Oracle already. We still do have a lot of mana, so that's good. Path is, I think I keep Path. I think in hindsight that was a bit of a mistake. I just really need to hit a black card. I guess I figured, I'm going to play Inverter, so that having Path is not the worst, but we're not playing Inverter, play on life. I think actually keeping that Path was not good. So they Skyclaver on life and then Batterskull. Now they have quite a big board. They play Sword of Fire and Ice, forcing us to actually spend this path to kill whatever they're gonna, try and equip it to. I could have hit the Skyclave, gotten our unlife back, and then like blocked with the Sky. Oh no, I can't because it's blue. Never mind, I can't do that. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I need to kill the Thalia. Anything else leaves me dead, I believe. Which is a little bit unfortunate because I'd much rather kill the Skyclave and get the unlife back, or maybe even land an Arbiter so I can use this gifts. Like I said, I just kind of brought in gifts versus everything to test it. But we live a turn, and then we draw a land, and okay, I mean we can play on life, and then and now we have another turn to try and draw a black card. They equip, and the combat damage puts us to 8 infect, and now they're going to shoot us with the Sword of Fire and Ice. So this is a bug. Unless the recent rules change somehow changed how Phyrexian Unlife worked to mean that creature damage is dealt sequentially. I don't think it did. I feel like I would have heard about that if that happened. But this is bugged. So damage that is all dealt at once. None of their stuff has first strike. Damage that's all dealt at once is supposed to put us to like we should be at -9 right now. And then take 2 damage from this Sword of Fire and Ice, but instead it put us to 8 infect, and then takes 2 damage from Sword of Fire and Ice. So we get kind of deprived of our chance to top deck an Oracle or to top deck an Inverter or a Spoils and win. So I will be filing for comp on that. Okay. Match 4. So match 4. We win the die roll. This hand is not the greatest, but I think it's okay. And we don't have any white sources, but we do have the Scryland. I mean, we can potentially like play an Oracle to like look for something depending on how reliant on Jace we want to end up being. Or we can potentially just play Jace out if we draw any land. So I don't hate this. Scryland shows us a white untapped land, so that is the dream. That means we can play turn 3 on life, turn 4 Jace. Probably. I mean, unless we draw better stuff. Notably, our opponent revealed Yorion. I don't think I mentioned that, so I mean that means they're going to be some sort of dirtily mess of a deck. No offense to Yorion players, but you know. So they have Ketria Triome, Snow-Covered Island, and then they play Wall of Blossoms. So that is perfectly fine. We'll play this on life out. Wall of Omens. So again, they're like tapping low. I don't think a deck playing Wall of Blossoms and Wall of Omens can really afford to be playing like Force of Negation. So I'm just going to be jamming Jace in here. This is looking like some sort of like probably like 4-color Omnath pile or something. Or Yorion Omnath pile. So we just play Jace. We mill them because I don't expect Omnath pile and a deck playing Wall of Blossoms to be playing Snapcaster. And, you know, maybe we get a little bit more info. Maybe we, like, randomly cheese luck mill them, although we could just as easily cheese luck mill them into something they do want, so that is not a viable strategy. But we draw Spoils. Spoils is fantastic because it means that we have the full combo in our hand, even if they deal with Jace and Unlife. So our opponent plays Avalanche Rider and blows up a land, which almost has the potential to be slightly annoying, but ultimately it doesn't matter because we just have Spoils, and then they're tapped out. They can't deal with Jace on life, and they die. It's important, actually. It's not really important, but it's maybe slightly important to not play the Talisman there in case something somehow goes wrong with Jace. Then we could play the Oracle afterwards if we needed to. The Seachrome, unfortunately, wouldn't come in untapped, but if we had an untapped white land, then we should play that first, just on the slight chance they somehow have main deck Force of Vigor or something. We could respond with Angel's Grace. Okay. Game 2. Again, I'm just bringing in gifts against basically everything just to test it, and then I got like no testing with it. This hand is quite good. I can play turn 2 Inverter. Notably, I can do some interesting stuff here where if I wanted to, I could play the gemstone on one, tap it, and then not use it, like tap it just to remove a counter. So that way on turn 2 I play Pentad, and assuming I draw nothing else relevant, turn 3 I play Inverter, putting the gemstone into the graveyard, and then shuffling that back, drawing that as my draw for turn, and then playing Oracle off of just the 2 lands we have. I think that is a little bit risky. I think it's very likely we draw some sort of land, and we can either just have have an extra mana to like play this Angel's Grace, or like even just play a cantrip or something like that. So yeah. So I choose not to lead on Gemstone. I guess let me see what we draw for turn. We might even draw a land. Yeah, so we draw a land, making that play not worth considering anymore. Because now I'll only use one of the Pentad counters to play the Inverter on 3. So yeah. So our opponent plays, cards that do things, I guess. Draw an Hellish Norn, not ideal. Play a Pentad Prism. Opponent plays Omnath. And I think a little bit here about what interaction they could possibly have. So I think if we play Jace, it is quite likely to die. So if we play Inverter, we're just banking on next turn Grace Oracle. I'm not expecting counter magic out of them, really. If they have an Avalanche Riders or something, it doesn't matter what they blow up. We can still play Grace Oracle no matter what they leave. So this is perhaps I'm feeling pretty confident here. Our opponent just fetches and passes, though. Which is a little worrisome. So I mean, we have to Grace on upkeep. And then, I don't know why that went really fast, but we tried to play Oracle. They had Venser, which is like probably a one of, and they just Vensered our Oracle, and now we're going to lose to deck. So that's not great. Sad times. But, you know, I think it was right to go for it there. I don't really think things are improving for us by waiting, or if we play the Jace. If the Jace had a chance of living, then playing the Jace potentially gets interesting. But the Jace does not have a chance of living because they have 4 power Omnath plus an Exalted Noble Hierarch, so it's just dead in one turn. So Jace is expensive Thought Scour that would cost us Pentad counters. So it is incorrect to play the Jace there. You could also make a case for gifts, but I mean, they have the Omnath in play already, so Elish Nord is kind of medium, and they're like a very multicolor deck. I think I brought in Iona, so that's also kind of medium. I don't think I brought in Gristlebrand. Maybe you could make a case that like there was some gifts play there that was better, but I think just going for the combo is probably better. We'd have still been got by a Venser if we went for a gifts play. I mean, unless we went like Iona named Blue, but I don't think we would name Blue against this deck. Questionable if I should have brought Iona in the first place, though. Questionable if I should have brought gifts in the first place, though. Again, just trying to test. Okay, so that was game 2, so we have game 3 here. This hand is a little bit slow, but I think I like it. I mean, if we draw any artifact mana, we're looking at a turn 4. Even without that, we could draw an Oracle, we could draw a Shelldock, we could draw... there's a lot of stuff we could draw that make this quite good. Even like drawing Inverter is not bad. I don't think I'm interested in another land, though. So they play a Dork, sure, whatever. Second Grace is not exactly ideal. Isfang Quaddle's kind of whatever. Play Pentad Prism. Pentad Prism is very good because it means next turn we just have Jace Spoils Grace, 6 mana on turn 4. They play an Avalanche Riders, blow up a land, and shut down our plan of 6 mana on turn 4. We have a land here, and now we have the elusive Grace Spoils combo. So this might not look like a combo, but we just, if we have 5 mana, we can just Grace first, Spoils for Oracle, and then Spoils the rest of our library away, and kill them with Oracle. So a sweet line that you don't see too much. Until I top deck that second Oracle, I think I mean I would have played Jace, and I think I would have been in a very good spot. They're probably not playing this Echo on the Avalanche Riders, and so like even if they like blow up another land or something, like we still just have Spoils Oracle or Spoils Grace, and the Jace I think is extremely likely to stay in play. And if it somehow doesn't stay in play, then well, then we get to that where we get to it. But I mean, I think the Jace is very likely to live there if we played it. Okay, so we win that one. So we are 3-1 so far, but I mean, we're finally for comp anyway. So last but not least, match 5. Wait, no, this is wrong. Last but not least, match 5. So here's game 1 of match 5, if I can find it. Yep. So we win the die roll. This hand is quite good. We have Inverter, we have a Shelldock to potentially find something, we have a Jace, and we have a Serum to sculpt a little bit if needed, and a Prism to speed it all up. So that we're looking at a turn 4 kill here. Opponent mulls to 6. So we don't really hit anything great here. I put the Unlife just, again, to put a combo piece, so potentially if I have spoils, a Gray Spoils, play the Unlife from under here line, although I think in hindsight it would have been better to put the Spoils because we have this Inverter, so if this is a grindy matchup, then having a Spoils under there to clear like a mini library is quite good. Wooded Foothills again. Another Serum Visions. So I mean, I could have played the Pentad and then played the Serum Visions, but I think I'm just interested in trying to so if I play that, then next turn I can just play Pentad and Serum again, and here I'm sort of capitalizing on my scries from the Serums more, because if you stack Serum after Serum, that's good if you're looking for one specific card, but if you're just looking to increase the quality of your hand overall, then this ordering lets us take a couple of decent cards. Given I already have the combo, I'm not really looking for one specific card so much. So I think we end up taking this Wishclaw just as like potential extra redundancy if needed. So they play a turn 2 Shriekhorn, so it's Dredge with medium working hand, which is promising. So here we play the Pentad, just develop our mana. I think I play the Scryland here instead of the Serum because, again, like, I'm not looking for anything specific with this Serum. I'm already in a spot where next turn I can just like Inverter and then play Jace. So developing the tapped land seems more practical. I don't really need another land, so I bottom that. They're missing a little bit on some of their mills. Okay, hopefully, I had to cut this for a second, so hopefully I was able to put these together, but if it fails, then I'll just upload them as 2 separate videos. So, yeah, so anyway, I'm back. Although for you guys, no time has passed. So I was saying I was playing the tap land, just because I'm not really looking for anything, so just hanging on to the Serum is fine. They're milling with Shriekhorn. They have yet to hit a Dredger, so that's good news. So they end up reunioning just to draw cards, discarding 3 lands. Here, we just draw an Oracle, and now we have 6 mana with Inverter Oracle. Same thing, Dredge does not play instant speed interaction that would be able to kill this Oracle, so we can just win. Okay, so that was game 1. So let's take a look at game number 2. Game number 2 is this one. So we mull a hand that had like a bunch of Jaces and not much else. And now we keep a hand with Thoughtseize, so I'm going to hope that we just get them with Thoughtseize. We ditch the Serum Visions because we actually have the Gray Spoils combo, so we're just looking to Thoughtseize, throw a wrench in their plans, and then hit 5 mana. So they play a Shriekhorn. We Thoughtseize them, and we take a Cathartic Reunion, so I'm feeling decently okay. We also draw a 3rd mana, so we can play that next turn. However, yeah. Oh no, we don't have an untapped land, so we can't play that next turn. Yeah, I was like thinking about what the problem was here. Yeah, the problem is we just don't have an untapped land. So here, we are in a bit of trouble. Now I could have led on the temple, And with the Shoecorn in play, maybe that is worth considering a little more. But then they would have had turn 2 Cathartic, ditching this like Loam, potentially going off with Dredges, and they had the Thug in their hand as well. So I think actually that potentially could have gone quite badly for us. But this is not doing so well because next turn they're going to Ox, and we're not hitting enough mana. If they hit bad off the Ox, we can play this Pentad next turn. I kept the Pentad because we could play the Pentad next turn and then top deck a land. This is not looking great. Yeah, and they hit like double chill into Amalgams or something. I think maybe you can make a case that we're supposed to Temple there first. Just the thing is that then they play turn 2 Cathartic and they just have the nuts hand. So, I mean, the Ox wouldn't be in play, but you know, Amalgam's Narcomoebas, we'd have taken the chill damage, and then the next turn they're like, turn 3 they're like playing the Ox and like potentially killing us that turn because we might already be below 10. It's like, I don't know. That's kind of iffy. I might have misplayed that a little bit. I'd have to think more about it. In any case, yeah, they just had a very fast hand, and our hand was a little bit slow. So we're dead there. Finally, game 3. Wait, I almost clicked yes, like it was an actual game. This hand is quite good. We have the potential for a turn 2 or turn 3 Inverter, turn 4 Oracle. Here, I think the Gemstone Mine counters could potentially matter, so I'm leading on this City of Brass for Serum. Dredge generally kills you in big chunks, so they don't nickel and dime you, so the 1 life loss is not likely to be relevant. This is kind of an interesting spot, because if I keep Talisman above Oracle, next turn I can play Shelldock and put the Oracle under it. And it doesn't slow us down. Next turn I play Shelldock. Turn 3 I play Pentad. Or no, turn 3 I play... Yeah, no, it doesn't slow us down, because turn 3 I play Talisman into Pentad, and then I have 6 mana, and then I can kill them on turn 4. If I didn't have like Talisman into Pentad and would only have 5 mana on turn 4, this could potentially slow us down, and in that case it might be better to not keep these, play the Pentad, and then just next turn play like Oracle Inverter or something like that. But because it doesn't slow us down, it's a turn 4 kill either way. We keep that for a little bit of extra redundancy. Maybe they like Thoughtseize and take a Thassa's Oracle or something, or whatever. So, yeah. So they fetch. They play their Haggle, and they're getting a little bit of dredging going. On their turn 2, they have Loam, get back a land, so they just need to put another Dredger in the yard. So this is looking somewhat okay. It's pretty slow from them, and they're dead in 2 turns. The Grace actually is... It doesn't quite make it so that... I mean, it makes it so that had we not done the Shelldock play and then drawn the Grace, we could have maybe killed them on 4 if we on 3 if we played the Pentad on 2, but maybe we only drew the Grace because of the Shelldock play. So I don't think it's right to. Well, actually, that's an interesting question. The debate is the upside of just like drawing a Grace and killing them higher than potential redundancy and resilience if they have some sort of interaction. So it's the same clock either way, it's just that maybe we randomly cheese kill them faster, or maybe we're more resilient. I think against their hand, making the more resilient play makes sense, because they're not doing anything super explosive. So we play the Talisman, and then we use that to play the Pentad. Now we have 6 mana set up to go into our turn 4. thinking about the 6 mana on 4 thing. Oh, they named Pentad Prism with Pithing Needle, so that doesn't do anything. Maybe it's an intimidation Pithing Needle. I don't know why they didn't name Sheldock. They should have named Sheldock. I mean, they don't know I have this Oracle in hand. But they do nothing of relevance. And now I kill them with Grace. Spoils, name Submit Spirit Guide. And then I used the mana from Pentad Prism to pay for the Oracle because, of course, not only is that the Robin's play, but it's also the right play because if anything were to go very bad, I have a second instant speed Oracle I could play. But it doesn't, and we win. So I think it's an interesting type of list, trying out the Gifts on Givens. I could potentially actually be talked into playing more Talismans, and really trying to emphasize the 4 mana on turn 3 angle. I don't know what the cut for them would be, but that's an angle I'm thinking of going in. I could also be talked up to a second Wishclaw, or I could be talked down to 0 Wishclaws. Not sure what I think about that. Land base might be an argument for playing an Urborg alongside the Sheldock Isles. I had an Urborg in like my old lists. There's no reason to be on 2 planes anymore, notably, because 2 planes does not let you win through a Blood Moon. So it's much more relevant to have the Swamp and potentially not be able to be put off black mana by like a Field of Ruin or something like that. Additionally, like Swamp Plains means that you can play, like let's say you have a Pentad or something. Like let's say you have your 2 basics, or you have like a Talisman and a basic, and you have a Pentad. Then that lets you do like Grace Oracle Spoils through a Blood Moon or something like that. I think not too many people are playing Blood Moon right now, but if they were, I'd get interested in playing Chromatic Lantern, potentially. Gifts, again, like I said, I didn't cast it at all. I brought it in a bunch of times and just had other combos or died anyway. I feel like, depending on how grindy things are, I could like it, and I think I like the idea of it, but I think more science needs to be done. So, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks for tuning in, and maybe I'll mess around with this a little bit more going forward. I think it is an interesting choice, and I think that having, well, again, I mean, yeah, I'm more interested in playing large competitive paper tournaments, so I don't just grind Moto. I'm not too into that, but maybe those will be on the horizon at some point, and then I'll get back to some more regular uploads. Anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in, and hopefully I see you guys out there inverting. Also, maybe shout out to my first round opponent, whose name I don't remember, who recognized my videos and said something in the chat about it. So shout out to you, first round opponent, if you're watching this.